If you talk about building a business or building a team, and when you build businesses, you build teams. It's all the same. It's a different world, different model, but it's still the same. You have to build that team. Just like in Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts and Scouting period, you build a team. You build a group that leads, and you build a team with your scouts or your players or your salespeople, whatever it may be. So now you think about this. Calipari walks into this job. He's got a couple of players that you know you can win with in the schedule that he had. He knew that some of the players left him, you couldn't win because the guy before him didn't win. So Calipari's got to figure out, got to do something. He goes out and has this perceived great recruiting class. And what it turned out to be, guys, gals, is that they were every bit, two of them were every bit as good as advertised, Wall and Cousins. Cousins may be better than advertised. And he was able to pull them together, pull the old guard. And Patrick Patterson's a great example. Here's a guy that played on 3 state championship teams, a guy that was getting all the notoriety before the freshman came. And Calipari was able to pull him in with this other group. He pulled Darius Miller in with this other group. And one of the reasons he was able to do it was Miller won a state championship, Patrick won 3. They were winners. It was about winning. It was all about winning. Then he was able to mesh these guys together. And a fellow I think you can do as a coach, and maybe you can plug this into your management style. One, you've got to get your team to share the ball. You share the ball. If you have selfish players, it comes back to haunt you. If you share the ball. When you watch the team this year, Cousins became a much better passer out of the low post. Patterson became a better passer, interior passing with Cousins. Of course, Wall, he'd share with anybody. He's phenomenal as far as understanding that. But they shared the ball very well. Darius Miller became a very good passer. They shared the ball. He got them to share the ball. With all those egos and all that talent, he got them to share the ball. The second thing you got to do, you got to get your team to play hard. Every game. And how many times did you hear Cal this year talk about, well, you know, we don't understand, we're letting them off the hook, we're young, we don't understand about putting the team away, about executing the whole game, we need 40 minutes, all those things you heard. I'll let coach speak. It's coach speak, but it's true. If you get your team to share the ball, play hard, every trip down the floor, you go to a lot of games. Even Duke, they played hard, they shared the ball. Duke always, the announcer said, well, Duke makes one more pass against the zone of the man. Butler makes one more pass. Okay. Now, don't expect to win 35 games next year. But I think he's going to have one challenge. You're going to win house games. And the one thing that we said all along with the previous coach, we became unimportant, irrelevant to the world of college basketball. This team, if they could have made their foul shots in the last 10 minutes of the game, they still could have won the game. You shoot 52% from the foul line for the game when you're 6 of 7 in the first half. That's not going to win many ball games. When you shoot 32% from the field and 12% or 7% from the tray line, you're not going to win many games. But that all happened at once. How could it all happen at once? Very unusual situation. Very unusual situation. Particularly after catching all the breaks. I mean, some of the games we won were games that this team just willed themselves to win. And I like that about that team. They just willed themselves to win. And they won it. They believed they could win. But in the second half, at about the 16-minute mark, I noticed that they were a little hesitant. They weren't following through. They weren't locking up. They were passing open shots. I think they felt the pressure for the first time in the whole year. The first time I think they felt the pressure. And when they did, the game changed. And then the last 6 minutes, when the little guard was getting some open layups and they were getting some open layups, I think they had really panicked in and got out of their defense because they were as good a defensive team as there was in the country when they played it. And all of a sudden, they pressed and they panicked a little and they got some easy shots. But if they still make the foul shots, they win the game.